Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner with The Wedding Biz, a podcast that provides both education and inspiration for those of us in or interested in the weddings and events industry. And Happy New Year! As usual, I'm getting ready for my time off on a beautiful and inspiring island in the Pacific, and yes, I'm talking about Maui. And I hope that all of you also get a chance to take a break, or already maybe took a break last month. Anyway, if you missed the last episode, it was a revisit of my interview of someone else who also spends yearly time in Maui, and that's the floral design icon, Sarah Winward. It was a great conversation. Be sure to check it out. Today's guest is a new conversation with Abi Matesun, an accomplished Nigerian-American filmmaker who has found success in and beyond the world of weddings and filmmaking. His work has earned international recognition, including 2 prestigious Telly Awards, 2 Emmy Awards, and the Most Influential People of African Descent Award. He has also made a name for himself in the world of documentary filmmaking with his original Netflix series, Made by Design. The series showcases the design and beauty of African architects, interior designers, and product designers. Abi was first on the show with a fantastic conversation in episode number 282. Be sure to check that out to get his backstory and enjoy this new conversation with Abi Matesun. Hey, Abi, good to have you back on The Wedding Biz again. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, sure. So, I saw your post on Instagram about your masterclass, which is what kind of motivated me to get in touch with you again. And I thought that the subject matter would really be a good topic to discuss for all of us listening. And so I want to dive right in. And I want to ask, how do you anticipate, let's say, future possibilities, that can elevate and enhance a client's experiences? How do you do that?
Excellent question, Andy. So, as human beings, the most important tool we possess is our mind. The quality of our thoughts is directly proportional to the quality of our lives. So the Creative Mind Shift Masterclass was designed to help entrepreneurs unlock their full potentials, empowering them to break through limiting thought patterns and reframing obstacles as opportunities. So what is the Creative Mind Shift? It is a paradigm shift that helps us unlock the creativity by breaking free from limiting thought patterns that hold us back. This shift helps us see the world differently. It helps us embrace new possibilities and seize fresh opportunities. So to answer your question, Andy, I think what has been limiting for the longest time are thoughts patterns that we have held on to over time that creates a block from us to get to the next level, if that makes any sense.
Well, I'm not sure if you could say more about that, I guess. I mean, I understand that, we carry these thought patterns. They're created really, when we're growing up. I mean, not to blame it on our parents, but a lot of it is how we grow up, how we're, talked to and communicated
and wired.
With. Yeah, and wired, and the environment, and all of that. And so, I know, I've done a lot of therapy, and I know that it took me a while to even recognize that I had as you call it, limiting thoughts and beliefs, and I couldn't do anything to change it until I even realized that, which took me years.
Exactly, and in the creative space, in the wedding space, those are the things that But when we address those things for ourselves, it helps us create an unforgettable experience for our clients, right? And I the core of some of the stuff that I'm talking about, I can go over some of that. The core concept of the creative mind shift. Number one, the power of foresight, right? Unleashing our imagination, active listening, right? Developing emotional intelligence, creating a vision statement, for example. These are things that that would help us begin to navigate this new era that is coming. With the introduction of AI, a lot of people are they're afraid, they are concerned that what does this thing mean? But before we even begin to address the external, I believe that in the internal, as you said, is what needs to be addressed first. So let's start with this, for example, right? You and I were just having a conversation, right? What are the limiting thought patterns that you have about yourself? Example, 3 of them. For me, for the longest time, it's, I'm not good enough. For some people, it's too late to start. Because a lot of our, we just had that conversation. We're talking about the gray hair, right? It's too late to start some things now, or I don't even have time. But the truth of the matter is, the best time to start is now, right? Even just starting now, learning something new. And the reason why we don't start is because we are afraid.
Afraid of what?
Very good. Afraid of failing. A lot of people have that fear. And even talking about failing, let's even reflect on failing for a second, right? Andy, have you ever failed at anything before?
Well, here's what I want to say about that. First of all, I actually don't believe in that word failing. To me, and this is maybe overcoming a mental block that I had for a while, was that paradigm shift where, to me, I don't look at it as failing. If something doesn't go my way, I learn so much from it. On this podcast, Abby, I've talked a lot about this book that I love called The Obstacle is the Way. It's by Ryan Holiday. And I should get it commissioned by now. I've brought it up so many times. But he talks about how, again, look at the title of the book, The Obstacle is the Way. And that's what I've come to realize is when I run into an obstacle, and let's call, what you're calling a failure, whatever an event is that we might consider a failure, it's really an obstacle that we can overcome, let's put it this way, that we can learn from and then overcome and take it to the next level.
I absolutely agree.
And that's a complete paradigm shift. That was huge for me as far as getting over a limiting belief.
Yes. Very, very, very true. So I have this exercise that I teach in my class where you say your name, like Abby, it is okay to fail, and the whole class does that. Abby. So let's even try it. So you go, Andy, it is okay to fail. And I asked them, I'm like, do you know what you've just done? Number one, you have extended grace to yourself.
Right.
Which it is important to be the first person to extend grace because you're training how you want to be treated. You're training people to treat you how you want to be treated. And secondly, you have touched on the reason why most people don't start. Right? Most people don't start a business. They don't pursue the dream. They don't take that step because they are afraid to fail. Right? So I say again, it is okay to fail. But what is not okay is to be a failure. And somebody would ask, what is the difference? Failing is an event, but failure is an identity.
Right. Good point.
Failure is a mindset. Failure is a destination. A failure is a person that fails and refuses to get up again. In the class, I teach them that, when you fail, which everyone at some point in time will fail, it is important to fail forward and fail fast. Right? So what does that mean? You fail fast and you fail forward because doing that helps you identify what works and what doesn't work quickly. And it allows you allocate your time and resources to the things that work because failing is a necessary part to the road to success. In fact, I dare say that there's no one that has ever succeeded without having to fail first. So in my mind, success is not defined by the height of achievement. It is actually defined by one's ability to get up and show up again and again, regardless of the number of times that you've been knocked down. So yes, Andy, that's what the creative mind shift is all about.
It's interesting. I think, it's almost a cliche when we talk of, not us, but I mean, rhetorically speaking, in general, people talking about failure, you have to get back up again. However, it is still a mental block that so many of us have. And, I do believe it kind of comes and goes. It's almost like for myself, I've got to remind myself. I'll tell you one quick story, Abby. So I'm a musician and I've been playing all my life. And there was a point, I don't know, I think I was in my early 40s. And I always wanted to play guitar. Immediately I was like, no way, not at this age. I'm too old. I'm too old to start. And I already know how to play other instruments really well, like particularly trumpet and to write songs and produce and other things like that. And I don't know anything about guitar. I felt like a failure before I started. And so I put it off for years. And finally I had a mentor at one point, this brilliant, big time songwriter who was a big hit songwriter. And I asked the question in class we were talking about something like this. And he made a point. He said, look, pick up the guitar. And here's why. Give yourself 5 years. It doesn't matter what age. You could be 80 and you can pick up guitar. Give yourself 5 years because you don't really see the changes, the growth from day to day. It's difficult. It feels like a slog, but it's like a toddler. You look at a toddler after 1 year, you see a huge amount of growth. And then another year at the age of 2, a huge amount of growth. And that is what allowed me to break that belief system for me, with the example of the guitar. And I did start to learn guitar and I gave it 5 years. I didn't become brilliant, but I sure came along quite a bit, enough to help myself with my songwriting and to enjoy myself. And that was an example of exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And you know what? The truth of the matter is the guitar is just one aspect. That same system can be applied into anything in your life. And over a period of time, you will see a significant improvement in the process.
Yeah, you mean it's like a muscle, isn't it? I mean, I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes, it is. Because, in fact, the brain is the largest muscle that we have. The mind is such a muscle. A lot of things, go from our conscious to our subconscious. Even, when you, like driving, for instance, driving is not, most of driving is not done consciously. So you heard people, they're so tired and they're like, you know what? I do not know how I even got home. I drove. I remember myself getting into the car.
Right.
Why? Because your subconscious has taken over. So that is what this class is about. Giving your subconscious the ability to take over your consciousness, right? Where you begin to train yourself and trick your mind into becoming who you want to be.
I want to make sure that you're aware of 2 other shows that are on the Wedding Biz Network. First are 2 seasons of Stop and Smell the Roses, hosted by well-known event designer Preston Bailey. Preston speaks with such an honest and sincere voice. This is the only platform in which you can hear this legend of the industry share secrets to his success. Also, check out the 140 episodes of The Business of Being Creative, hosted by Sean Lowe. Sean's consulting firm, The Business of Being Creative, is full of topics and advice for any creative business with a focus on the event and interior design industry. You can find both shows at theweddingbiznetwork.com or on your cell phone's podcast app for both Stop and Smell the Roses and The Business of Being Creative. I love everything you're talking about here. It's really sparking a lot of thoughts here. Yeah, and especially in terms of it being a muscle, like one example for me is a lot of times, there's moments when I'll just immediately shut down, in terms of an idea or something like that. It's been like that from really practicing what we're both talking about here and starting to recognize that failure, quote unquote, or an obstacle is actually, as you said earlier, really a necessary road to success. As I started to practice that and get more used to it, now I'm at the point at this point where something happens, like that, and I immediately go for it anyway. I no longer am stopped, and it took me, not years, it took me decades to get to this point. So even though it is almost cliche, hey, just get back up and go. No, it's for real. This thing is for real. You got to practice it to the point where, like you say, the subconscious, the unconscious kind of takes over, and the muscle memory kicks in, and you trust, and and you look at it again as an opportunity for growth.
Absolutely. I was talking to my son yesterday, and we're talking about mindset. And it started with a question. It's like, because I asked him to do something, and he's like, what if it doesn't work? And I said to him, I'm like, what if it works?
Right.
Right? What if it works? I'm like, I need you to start focusing on a winning mindset, right? There is, and I tell you this all the time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with failing, right? I just want you to put the effort in. If you come to me with, Dad, I got a D, and I asked you that, did you put the right effort in? And you're like, Dad, I gave it my best, and a D was your best at that time. I'm like, I prefer that to a B that you did not put any effort into. So just training them at a young age to begin to think differently, to begin to see life differently. I think that is, I'm very, very happy about the changes that I'm seeing in him, even, introduce him early into this mind shift mentality.
Yeah, it is a mind shift. What about, and when I read up on some information about the masterclass, you talk about crafting a vision statement to help with all of this. Can you say something about that? How do you define a vision statement, and how do you go about crafting it?
Fantastic. A vision statement has to be, before you even go into writing the statement, you have to sit down and see yourself in that place, right? I'll give you an example of what happened to us as a company. In 2016, I said to my team, I'm like, I think we can win an Emmy. And they looked at me crazy.
Yeah, that's a big statement.
I think we have what it takes. We're storytellers. I think we can do this. And, I don't know. I'm like, you know what? Let's think about it for a second. And what I personally did for over a year before I went to bed, I would sit down with a picture. I can't remember who it was, of this person holding an Emmy. And I would close my eyes and visualize myself climbing up that stage and giving, speaking to the audience and giving a thank you note. And I did that every night for over a year.
Wow.
Then I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Do you know that in a matter of months, we got this project, we made it, and we're like, you know what, we're going to submit this project. Within months, we got a nomination letter, and I saw myself doing that thing that I'd been seeing in my mind, climbing, and the winner is Malekfoto, and the project. And I cannot even articulate it in words, the feeling that night, right? Walking up that stage, everything was in slow motion. And you see that in movies where something happens and the character begins to walk in slow motion towards achieving a goal, or stopping the bomb, or doing this or doing that. That's exactly what happened to me that night. Everything was in slow motion. The sound and the cheering was muffled. Then I got onto the podium, and I was like, wow. I need to send you that video.
I love that. Well, and and I would think that when some people, this is a big thing. I understand visualizing, and I think, like, for me, it's been kind of difficult to do that. It's like, who am I? Like, I would be thinking to myself, who am I to imagine getting an Emmy? However, I agree. I understand that in order to create to open yourself up to the opportunity and to shift your mind. Yeah, I get it. To visualize that I'm going to win an Emmy, even though it might on the surface seem ridiculous, it opens my mind up to, okay, what does it take? What opportunity is going to come my way that I'm going to jump on, that I'm work hard on? It somehow just sends a signal to the universe.
Yes. And that is what most of us don't realize, that life is more than what you see, right? Life is more than what you see. There is another realm that controls this realm, right? Where you have to tap into that's the realm of your subconscious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You have to tap into that. You have to begin to train that more than the things that you see. And all of a sudden things begin to open up.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I agree. We've I know in a sense we've barely gone below the surface with all this, but in a short form podcast, I feel like we really covered some really important issues. Before we go, I mean, seriously, like this is enough, for people to listen to like 3-4 times is what I would recommend. But before we go, is there anything else though, anything major or, that you want to bring up before we end this?
So I think, you touch on something very important, which is your the visualization. There are other things like the power of foresight, for instance. Being able to it's similar to visualization, but it's different, right? The ability to anticipate and prepare for a future event. It is a strong leadership skill. It is critical skill for decision making and strategy, right? Where you sit down and just kind of look ahead and see things. That's what Steve Jobs did with the iPhone. When the iPhone came into bear, it was so much significantly more expensive than what was out there. I don't know if you remember 2007, right? The average phone at that time was between $20 and $99.
Oh, don't remember.
And this man he showed up with this device and said, you know what? You have your songs here. You could check email. You can send email. You can do your text. In fact, you can browse the internet. And everybody was like, oh, okay. He said it was a tool that they need, but they did not realize that they needed it. That's why they made it. And he's like, people will pay anything to get this tool in their hand. My friend, iPhone, as of today, is close to $2,000, and people are still buying it. Why? Because he had created something. There was a value proposition in what was created. So as creatives, we should not even think about our pricing or anything like that. What is the value that you're giving to your audience? If you come up with the right value proposition, they would pay for your services and they will pay for whatever it is that you have. So that's my final thought.
I love that. No, I think that's really critical. That's really important. I love that. Well, geez, Abi, this has been great. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I'm sure we'll get together and speak again soon.
Yes. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Abi Matesun. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't keep it to yourself. Tell a friend. Also, check out Abi's website, which is malekfotoweddings.com. That's spelled MALEKFOTO. So malekfotoweddings.com and malekfotofilms.com. You can find him on Instagram and Facebook at malekfotoweddings. And in 2 weeks, our next episode is going to be a brand new conversation with Josh Spiegel of Birch Events out of New York City. And finally, follow us on Instagram at The Wedding Biz, and we'll catch you later.